So not only do we need climate action, but as we take action on climate...
What's up, you guys? Today I am in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We are here with the Wisconsin 7, and they want to talk about climate justice. So this is something that's kind of new for me, but the Wisconsin 7 has been fasting now for I think about 17 days, and I'm here to see and learn more about what climate justice is and learn a little bit more about what the Wisconsin 7 and what they stand for. So let's go check this out, you guys.
I'm reminded of what Jesus commanded me to be about and commanded us Christians to be about. Jesus said that we are to love our neighbors as ourselves. To love our neighbors means making sure that each one of our neighbors has a livable future. To love our neighbors means making sure that each one of our neighbors can have a family-sustaining green job. To love our neighbor means making sure that our neighbors and our neighbors' kids and our neighbors' grandkids have clean air to breathe. To love our neighbor means making sure that our neighbors' kids, and our neighbors' grandkids have clean drinking water. And loving our neighbor means making sure that our neighbors have cheap ways to fuel and warm their homes and to have transportation. We can take some big steps in our state budget in all of these ways of neighborly love. So if you want to see a climate justice budget, how about you say climate justice budget? Climate justice budget! Climate justice budget! Climate justice budget!
Justice budget! All right!
So with that being said, as words of introduction, I want to invite up our first speaker and our host, the Reverend Dr. Lisa Bates-Foyland. She has led Redeemer Lutheran Church in the ways of sustainability in so many ways, and not only has she done that, but she is a dear sibling in Christ. She is the first pastor here in Wisconsin I ever heard preach. And her church was the very first church in Wisconsin that I got to be blessed to worship in. And so I could not be more excited to call up the Reverend Dr. Lisa Bates-Foyland.
Thank you, Jonathan. And first things first, as your host, I would like to let you know that the front doors of the church around the corner there are open, and there is a anybody use restroom to your immediate right, okay? I want to give you another kind of tour of my congregation, and I'm going to start at the ground floor and go up. This is a green tour of Redeemer, okay?
All right.
So first, you'll see around the corner there, it just looks like a wooden box back there. That is a storm garden, G-U-A-R-D-E-N. It captures all of the rain that falls on those long expanses there, and makes sure that doesn't just go running down the street. And so we start there with water. We go up a little ways. You can barely see that top of that umbrella there. I had lunch up there today. That is our rooftop apiary. That's where we keep honeybees, and urban honeybees do a good job of pollinating. And especially in this neighborhood, there are many, many small gardens that provide perhaps the only fresh vegetables and fruit sources for people living in this near area. Many community gardens as well. Little honeybee, they can go up to 5 miles in order to pollinate. So we hope that we are helping the food sourcing in this neighborhood with our honeybees. It's not just cute, it's not just sweet honey, it's much more than that. And so that's a part way up. Now all the way up to the top, you can't see it, but see this big chimney? Behind that chimney there is a solar array of 68 panels. And they are absorbing all these beautiful rays today, thanks be to God. And they are cutting our energy costs by 1/3 to 1/2. But more so than that, this is the justice piece. When I first started working here 10 years ago, I would get out of the car and breathe in, and I would cough, because the main heating plant was coal-fired at that point in time. And that meant all the people living in this neighborhood were also breathing in a little bit of coal dust all the time. Now they've switched to natural gas by then, but we were making a statement by saying, let's go green now. Let's go green now. Now this isn't a huge congregation here, it's a multi-everything congregation, which gives me great joy. But not a huge congregation, not a wealthy congregation. But when you set your priorities in a certain place, then you bring together the resources, and sometimes you can inspire people to give you a little bit more. And that's how we were able to fund solar panels on the rooftop here. Part of that was the Focus on Energy program. Hey, I think that's in the budget, right? That's in the budget proposal to double the amount of Focus on Energy grants that would be available to places like houses of worship. Do you know a few houses of worship that have a roof on them? I think just about every one of them does. And wouldn't it be great if all of them could have a solar array as well and move us toward the green future that we know is coming? It's just a matter of time and how long. But it's coming. It's going to provide jobs. It's going to make our air clearer and our water safer for everyone. So I think we can all get behind that. Thank you, Jonathan, for bringing the Wisconsin 7 here today, and for all of you for spending a little bit of this glorious afternoon here at Redeemer. Thanks.
All right.
Let's hear it again for Reverend Dr. Lisa Bates-Foyland. And clearly she gets climate justice, so when I say climate, you say justice. Climate!
Justice!
Climate!
Justice!
Climate!
Justice!
All right, our next speaker is one of the originals. When there was just the Wisconsin 1, he was willing to offer blessings and encouragement to head down to Kenosha and give a word of encouragement to me. And so he's always a co-conspirator and so many different things we do at Grace. Without further ado, Bishop Paul Erickson, the Bishop of the Greater Milwaukee Synod, my bishop and my friend.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming out on this beautiful day for a very important cause. And I want to also offer my gratitude and support for the work of the Wisconsin 7, as they are bringing about support and attention to the important environmental proposals that are contained in Governor Evers' budget. The time to act has passed, but the time to act is now, right? We could have done this years ago, but now is the time to do it today. We believe that one of the most important tenets of our Lutheran faith, as Pastor Jonathan mentioned, I think it's probably the same in many, many faith traditions, if not every faith tradition, and that is the call and the command to love our neighbor. But I want to challenge you all to imagine that our neighbor is not just our human neighbors. No, we are called to love all of our neighbors, all of creation, with the same love that God, the Creator, has for us, right? So these folks that are fasting are reminding us that the call to love our neighbor expands far and wide across the entire creation. We are to love and to care for everything that God has created, not out of duty or out of fear, or out of political correctness, but out of gratitude, and to give honor to the one who made it, right? Because, as Dr. King reminded us in his letter from the Birmingham jail, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I'm going to argue that those words apply to our relationship with the environment as well. We cannot have a healthy, just, and equitable society unless we are also in right relationship with our creation. We cannot have a healthy world unless our world is healthy. It is all connected. Race, gender, gendered identity, gender expression. Economics, healthcare, education, and the climate. We ignore the well-being of our environment at our own peril. And we're already experiencing the disastrous effects of ignoring that for way too long. And we know that the first to suffer the consequences of climate change and climate peril are those who don't have the resources to insulate themselves from it, right? The people of color, the people who live on the margins, they are the first to experience the dramatic effects of climate change. So it's up to us to stand up, to be one, and to recognize that when one part of the body suffers, we all suffer together. And when one part of the body moves in the right direction, it is incumbent upon all of us to get in line and get in step and walk together towards a more just, sustainable, and holistic future. I'm so grateful for the work of the Wisconsin 7 and for all of those who are supporting their effort to bring about attention to the need for climate solutions in our budget and in our world. We have to turn away from the path that leads to destruction and death and turn towards the path that leads to wholeness and new life. It is possible. The time to act is now. The time to act for climate justice. Climate justice. Climate justice. Let's do it.
Let's hear it for Bishop Paul Erickson one more time. And how about when I say, what do you want? You say climate justice. What do you want?
Climate justice!
When do you want it?
Now!
What do you want?
Climate justice!
When do you want it?
Now!
Right now.
Right now!
All right, thank you so much. Give it up for yourselves, Milwaukee. Next up is another long-term warrior for justice, State Assemblyman Supreme More Umukunde. And before he was on the State Assembly, which we're so excited about just this past cycle, he was a county supervisor who spearheaded the Milwaukee City County Green New Deal Task Force, which came up with a long list of beautiful ways to transform our city. And so let's hear it for State Assemblyman Supreme More Umukunde.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Is it too muffled? Can y'all hear me? I've become used to talking with a mask on because some of my colleagues in Madison don't like to wear them. So, first and foremost, I want to ask an elder for permission to proceed. I see Pastor Ellwinger's here. May I proceed, sir? Thank you. Thank you. So, first and foremost, I want to thank the 7 individuals who are fasting right now, because that is sacrifice. And to go on a fast for 22 days is sacrifice. And they're sacrificing because they realize how important climate justice is. I remember when I first really started vocalizing this work, we were saying climate change, climate change, climate change. However, it was focusing on a negative. We got to focus on the positive and focus on the thing that's going to unite all of us, and that's climate justice. All right. And we got to have climate justice in everything that we do. So, first and foremost, dealing with recognizing what we need, I'm a state assembly person. I sit on the committee on energy and utilities, and I fought to get on that committee. When I first got there and they were asking what we wanted our committee assignments to be, I fought tooth and nail to get on the committee on energy and utilities. And we're talking about how we deal with our energy, how we deal with our utilities, etc. But we're talking right now about the budget. And the budget right now is Governor Evers' budget, and we got to fight for the things that we want to stay in the budget, because at some point it will transition and become Speaker Voss and his party's budget. But we want to make sure that we have our Green Jobs Initiative. There's $1 million to help support green jobs and green job transition. We lost so many jobs during deindustrialization in the city of Milwaukee. We want to get some of those jobs back, but we got to be trained to do that work. We got to make sure that we know how to do that work, installing solar panels, building wind turbines, having people who do green audits on buildings once we require that work to be done. People have to be knowledgeable and know what we're doing. Secondly, we have to have the Office of Environmental Justice. because we gotta make sure it's a heavy lift. We gotta get everybody involved. People of color, people in Milwaukee, in urban areas, people in rural areas, people in native country, etc. We got to get everybody involved in this platform. And finally, we also have to get the Public Service Commission to do a study on the social impacts of carbon. We got to make sure that we know and understand what the social ills of carbon are. We got to require construction companies to do environmental impact studies whenever they do construction anywhere. We have to make sure that people have access to those studies so they can go to meetings and understand what's happening. I am proud to represent the people of the 17th Assembly District, and I was proud to represent the people of the 10th County District. However, I also have to be concerned with my other constituents, my constituents of land, air, and water as well. And I represent those individuals in that constituency as well. We also have to talk about on-bill financing as well. If you are a renter in a home and you need green updates on the place that you're renting from, we need to make sure that those on that bill, there is an assessment to help do those renovations on that building. And not only you, but the tenants that come after you can also benefit from those updates on that building. The energy efficiency, we talked about polar vortex. People always talk about, global warming, Global warming, how's that global warming for you? Those polar vortexes that happen in the wintertime are also as a result of climate change. When you got 60, 70 degree below days, you got to crank that heat all the way up and your bill is $300-400 more than it typically is. Who's going to be paying for that, especially if your home isn't insulated? We got to make sure that we have on-bill financing so we can do that work in homes that otherwise wouldn't get that work done. And so we got to make sure we're doing all of these things and make sure all these things are staying in the budget. We got to fight for what we want in our budget. So it's climate justice. Climate
Justice!
Climate
Justice!
Climate
Justice!
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you. You're my boss. I gotta come see you.
Thank you so much, Supreme. Can we hear it for Supreme one more time? Our next speaker will be County Supervisor Stephen Shayap. He is a long-time activist in Milwaukee for just about every good cause. Whenever I see people marching with signs and flags, it seems like Stephen is out. And so can we hear it for Stephen as he comes up to share some words on what we're talking about.
Hello, I am County Supervisor Steve Shea. I am honored and humbled to be speaking in front of so many righteous activists, some of whom I know personally. Supreme, who up until just recently was my colleague on the county board. He's gone on to state legislature, and as far as working with those Republicans who refuse to wear masks, brother, you need combat pay, hazard pay. And I also want to mention Reverend Joyce Ellwinger, who's probably been doing this as long as anybody here. I believe you were on the Selma March, were you not?
That's right. All right.
Holy moly. You don't get any more activist cred than that. But anyway, I brought a sign today, and you may notice, it says, "End all violence." Now, there's many kinds of violence. There's the obvious violence that we hear about on the news each night. There was a shooting outside of a bar at 2 a.m., or there was some road rage on the freeway. Shots were fired. But the most sinister violence of all is the one that doesn't get on the news every night, and that's the damage we're doing, the violence we're doing to this planet.
Come on.
Right now, the temperature on this planet has already increased by 2 degrees. Now, that sure may not sound like very much, but that's more than enough to create climate change all over this planet. We know, beyond doubt, there isn't any doubt to this. There is more carbon in our atmosphere right now than at any time in over 500,000 years. And the reason it is because of the burning of fossil fuels. The fossil fuel industry is a multi-billion dollar industry. They got unlimited money to throw around to buy politicians. I'm not one of them, thankfully. But there are powerful vested interests to keep the fossil fuel industry going. Now, they say, oh, it will cost too much. We can't do it. You know, green energy, it's too expensive. Baloney. I've been to Europe. They've got wind farms, solar farms everywhere. They got bicycles everywhere. They have mass transit, multiple kinds of mass transit in each city. Light rail, heavy rail, buses, you name it. They are already doing what we should be doing. And some countries like Portugal, Denmark, expect to be carbon neutral by 2030. That's only 9 years away.
All right.
We are lagging far behind, and we can't wait another 30 years. The year 2050 is only 29 years away. It's closer than 1990 is behind us. We've only got this one chance to save this planet. There's no planet B, folks. We're already seeing the catastrophic effects. There had never been more than one level 5 hurricane in 1 year in recorded history. In 2017, we had 3 in 1 month. Puerto Rico still has not recovered. And talk about climate refugees. People from all over Puerto Rico moved to the United States because their homes were destroyed. And they still haven't moved back. And probably never, many of them never will. So, the situation is here. It's now. We can't put it off any longer. Species are already being sent to extinction. People are already being forced out of their homes. We need to save our planet. Thank you.
Let's hear it for Stephen Shave one more time. How about when I say green, you say future? Green.
Future.
Green.
Future.
Green.
Future.
Our next speaker has been in many ways the Wisconsin 8th. He has been pouring his soul into helping get the word out about what we're doing. He has been a convener of a group called Building Unity, which is trying to bring people across the state together from so many different organizations. And so without further ado, let me introduce Tim Corden from Building Unity.
Just to be on the same speaking stage as these people, you can imagine how honored I am. Let's give it up for the Wisconsin 7. 17 days. 17 days every day when I eat. I mean, I got to eat 3 or 4 times a day. And I think about these people. How do they do it? They're like superhuman. 17 days, that's love. And that's a word that I'm so proud and pleased that these brave activists are not afraid to use the word love. They're not afraid to name what this is. This is love for our people, for our planet, for all creation, and also for the future. Because we are the first generation to feel the effects of climate change, and we are the last generation that can do anything about it. We have been given a tremendous responsibility. These courageous leaders are unity builders. And that's why Building Unity, which is not a group, I want to correct Pastor Jonathan, we are not a group, we're not a separate group, we are a group that wants to link up with Peace Action Wisconsin or Our Wisconsin Revolution, with Wisdom, with the United Nations, with all the groups that are standing for justice. comes down to the four basic principles, and they've been named already by others, but I'll just review them. We have to stop violence, the violence of war, the violence of the militaristic police state. We've got to stop violence. The power over paradigm is not working. We've got to stand up for justice and make sure, as Pastor Jonathan so beautifully articulates, we've got to be there with love for our neighbor. Make sure nobody falls through the cracks. So there's justice, there's sustainability, right? We have to live in the same way that our indigenous relatives have been calling for, with an attention to the next generations for 7 generations. And then there's democracy. Our democracy has been under attack with gerrymandering, voter suppression, and the like. And it continues today. So we, as 4 separate movements, the movements for peace, the movements for justice, the movements for sustainability, and the movements for democracy, have got to pull together. And that's what Building Unity is. It's a project that says, let's build one movement that leaves nobody out, because we all agree on all those things, do we not? Can I get an amen? Amen. Amen. Thank you, and thank you, Wisconsin 7. I'm following you to victory.
All right.
It is now my great privilege to introduce each of the Wisconsin 7 to come up here individually. And they fill me and my heart with hope, because each one of them decided to stand up bravely and fast for 22 days for climate justice. And I never thought this wouldn't be a one-person thing. Who joins a 22-day fast? Well, apparently these very brave individuals do. And so again, they just fill my heart with hope about what can be. They remind me that we can come together. They remind me that we can do things that some people say are impossible. And so the first of the Wisconsin 7 I want to come up and introduce is Justin Blake. Justin is a longtime activist. In fact, he comes from a long line of activists. Both his dad and mom did powerful things in Illinois. He has spent his life working to bring after his nephew was shot. And he started the Black Underground Recycling. He gets what it means to have climate justice. He's got an organization that recycles, creates jobs, and creates food for communities that need it. And so without further ado, let me have Justin Blake come on up.
I've been all around the country speaking for justice for the Breonna Taylor, for Mr. Floyd, his family, and the Blake family. And it's really, it comes down to humanity. We gotta stop the violence, because as one of the speakers said earlier, it isn't the shooting that you see, it's violence when you put shove leaded water down our children's mouth. It's violence when they breathe in coal every day. I don't know how many African Americans we knew that grew up in the damn projects that have asthma or other ailments because they use a lesser product in the projects. That's violence. And I'm mad, and I want you to know I'm damn mad. We have to stop violence in our neighborhoods. We as African descendants have to stop violence towards each other. We must love each other. If you ever heard that song Sam Cooke sang about change is gonna come, change is here. You are that change. You are that change. We are that change. We will never let the clock turn back to where we have factories spewing out stuff into our communities that we know are toxic. We have to stop allowing lesser buildings being in low-income areas where you go in a house and you're living under toxic things being released every day. Why are we doing this to people that are African descendant, are brown, and people with lesser money? Stop the violence. Stop the violence. So we just went up to
Louisville to help the Taylor family, Browner's mother and auntie, celebrate the first year of the tragic incident that they were involved in. And on the way back home, we were coming through Indiana, and it's at night. I got to tell you, I can't see too damn well at night. And I saw these dots in the field. I was like, man, that's different. I asked everyone in the car, look over there, what's that? It was thousands of windmills. So the airplanes wouldn't hit them, they had dots on them. We're behind times. Just like we got to get rid of this antiquated police and law and order that we have and develop something new, we also have to develop a new way that we deal with each other. We have to love each other. We have to love our animals. They won't be here. I hope you love this big, beautiful blue day. If we don't change, it won't be here. The water around this country, when I lived in Indianapolis, you literally could see it was brown and smelled. We didn't even give it to our dogs. We got to change this. And the change is here, and the change is you. We got to continue to work together. We got to continue to build organizations, as my dear brother Tim said, or we won't have this beautiful thing we call planet. So you can sit back at home, you can let it water. Or you say you're Christian, we say we're Muslims, we say we're Buddhists, and as the bishop said, if that's true, all of these people have to be talking about humanity and taking care of their brothers and sisters. So I won't keep you long because y'all got work to do. We got to change some other minds and get them involved. Please keep supporting the Wisconsin 7. We'll be down in Madison, hopefully to speak to the governor, make sure they fund this budget. Because why? It's going to give jobs to people who need it. It'll be a way to change our environment. And you can never go wrong when you see the eagle fly. So big ups to the red, the black, and the green. Unity now, one Africa. Thank you.
Can we hear it for Justin Blake one more time? And he mentioned jobs. When I say green, you say jobs. Green.
Jobs.
Green.
Jobs.
Green.
Jobs.
All right, our next speaker is Tori Low. I have to read off my phone because his list of accomplishments is so long. He is a longtime Milwaukee activist. He has worked with families in the aftermath of violence. Whether the problem is police misconduct, dirty drinking water, missing persons, human trafficking, or violence on the streets, Tori is always there. And I know that. My neighbors and people I know in Milwaukee looked at Tori for all sorts of support. It is a privilege to have him be part of the Wisconsin 7. And I just want to do one more plug. So he has a radio show, 101.7 The Truth. And that's on between 1 to 4 Monday through Friday. So please check that out. It is a wonderful show. And so let's hear it up for Tori Low.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. As an advocate, as a person that gets calls in the middle of the night, I just wake up and I just respond. Because there's no time, it's emergency. Somebody's calling me at 2 in the morning, I know it's bad. Somebody's calling me during the day due to a death, violence, human trafficking, missing people. I know it's bad, so I just go. But I didn't know that some of those calls were for climate justice. I just knew it was a problem. The lead poisoning issue. So many children every day in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and across the state are drinking water that is poisoning them. My son is a victim of lead poisoning. And we didn't even know this. It's invisible. Our water is not brown. It's not brown, it's coming out clear. But we knew nothing about the lead laterals that were going into our homes. This was not taught. So I found out when So I started a journey 6 years ago to fight against lead poisoning. 170 homes in the state of Wisconsin have lead pipes connected to their houses. And this is a problem. Energy. A woman used to call me all the time with lupus and said that her house was cold during the winter. And I would like, Well, why don't the landlord turn the heat up? Well, she was living in an apartment building that they controlled the heat overall. And she was freezing. She had ailments of lupus, and she could not live in those conditions. So I had to fight extremely hard to help this woman. Air. In Caledonia, there's a fossil plant, and it's spewing fossil fuel in the air. And one of my white brothers was like, Tori, I'm getting sick from this. So I had to go down to Caledonia. I was like, what's going on here? How many of y'all know the problem about that fossil plant in Caledonia? I'm telling the truth. I didn't know I was fighting for climate justice. I was fighting for them to have fresh air. I was fighting for the children to have clean water, and we need something done about alternative ways for heat and electricity and things like that. We need solar panels. We need to reduce some of these things because energy is a monopoly. The truth is, the one thing we all share is the air, water, and land. And it's our job to protect those things. We are failing. Wisconsin is failing in this area. A lot of people, because they're not really seeing some of these things, they don't think about it. But when it happens to you, when you take your child to the doctor and they say they got lead poisoning, or when you go to the doctor they say you got asthma because you're breathing in the air, or when you're trying to plant a garden and you're trying to use the regular soil, but you got to put a box. You don't know to put a box in soil. You can't even plant into the ground anymore. You got to have a box with soil in it now. How many of y'all know this to be true? Why? Because we neglected the earth. And we don't think about these things until it becomes a problem to us. Then we want to speak out. Then we want to say help. Then we want to cry for help when it affects our families. As the most requested advocate, not only in Milwaukee, in the state of Wisconsin, I get to see it all. And many times when I go to situations, I look and be like, how did this happen? Well, through years of neglect. Some of it is derived from many, many years of neglect. So the time is now. The time is to stop the neglect, because we're all falling victims every day, unknowingly. Some of us are so worried about living check to check, day to day, that we don't even think about these things until it affects us directly. And by the time that happens, it's too late. So let's get ahead of the curve. Let's start working now for our children, and their children's children don't have to deal with this issue. I never thought I was fighting for climate justice. I just knew that it was a problem. Now that I'm being educated and understanding that this is a whole thing in totality, I'm happy to be a part of the Wisconsin 7. Because now I got a name for the problem that I saw. It's called climate justice.
That's right.
So understand, we all in this fight together. Black, white, Native, Hispanic, Asian. All of us are affected. So I'm gonna fast 22 days to show how serious this is. I lost 30 pounds. 30 pounds. How come nobody I was big? But it's worth it. So when I say what do we want, you say climate justice. And when I say when do we want it, you say now. What do we want?
Climate justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Climate justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
Justice Wisconsin is definitely going to do what we can to make sure that the future is a lot better than it is now. God bless.
Can we hear it for Tori Low one more time? Supervisor Andy Berg. Now, Andy is one of the bravest people I know. This past January, he slept out in front of my church in January for 2 days so he could raise funds for us to fix our roof and to have food for our food pantry. Not only does Andy do risky things and brave things, but Andy is a county supervisor. He's an Army veteran. He started the Garden of Eden, which donates thousands of pounds of food to our pantry each year. And the list could go on and on. And so, County Supervisor Andy Berg, why don't you come on up?
I think I'm the shortest one here, so when I dip this down, it's gonna fall out. Okay, you got me. Thank you everyone for being here, I appreciate it. It's been quite a trek. This is my first fast, so I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about my brothers and sisters here. When I was a kid, I'd watch movies and I'd see fields in California and out in the desert of the wind turbines, and then I see all the solar panels that have been going up. But here in Wisconsin, I don't know, I think I've seen maybe 12, maybe 15 wind turbines in the state. I haven't been all over the state, but that's not enough to begin with. We have free sun, but we're not utilizing it. I guess ultimately it comes down to the dollars that goes into somebody's pocket, which is unfortunate because it's not going in any of y'all's pockets. It's not going in my pocket, but it's coming out of our pocket. Tori talked about it, about the lead pipes. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tori. You said 167 schools? 170,000 in the state, but in Milwaukee, 167 schools? Say again? 40,000 in Milwaukee. That's crazy. We have a lot in Kenosha as it is also. And our mayor's been working on it, but it's not enough. Because every day our kids are drinking this lead water. It's terrible. The pastor brought up the gardens that I have. We started with one garden through the Garden of Eden. We now have 7 locations. 6 of those 7 are in low-income neighborhoods. So I've seen and heard the stories of folks having to heat their homes with their stove because they don't want to pay for the gas or the electric or vice versa. That's unheard of. That's terrible. Well, I don't understand why we're doing that. So, and we don't have, there are good landlords, but there's a lot of bad landlords also who are not replacing the weather stripping around the windows, around the doors. And that's part of what Assembly Omakumo said. Say again? Oh, sorry. Was getting at is we need to be able to put these state dollars into our low-income neighborhoods so that these homes are energy efficient, so that instead we're making it so that their bills are cheaper. I'm going to end with electric vehicle charging system, charging infrastructure. In the state of Wisconsin, what I counted was around 40 locations where you can charge your vehicle. Between Chicago and our southern border by Pleasant Prairie, there's more than 3 times that many, just in that small 45, 60 mile gap or area. But we're not even anywhere near that in the state. That needs to change. One reason why that needs to change is because we have Door County, we have the Dells, we have Lake Geneva. The folks between Chicago and our southern border, they go to these places. If they don't have a place to charge their vehicle, guess what's not coming to our state? Tourism dollars. If we don't have that tourism dollars, we're below budget now. So again, I thank you for everybody that came out here today. And just to put this stat out there, between the 7 of us, we've lost over 100 pounds collectively. So it's almost a person for some of us. So thank you again for being out here, and thank you for the support.
Let's hear it for County Supervisor Jill Ferguson, a lifelong peace activist, a dear sibling in this cause, a board member at Peace Action Wisconsin. And so let's hear it for Jill as she comes up to the microphone.
All right.
Good afternoon, Milwaukee. It's so great to be back in Milwaukee. We've been traveling throughout the state. We were in first Kenosha, Racine, yesterday where was that, Pastor? Cameron, Wisconsin. So it's good to be back in my home city of Milwaukee. I'm known throughout Milwaukee pretty much for my signs. I'm pretty much known as, I made a funny little stick person about it. This is me. So here's the old lady with the cane, and I'm always balancing for everybody that knows me, trying to balance 3-4 signs at the same time. And they say, so I'm always dragging a bag behind me with 20 signs in it to hand out to everybody. So it's so nice to see a lot of my friends out here today, and I really thank you for coming, truly. So we were told to try and wrap it up in like 2 to 3 minutes. And when I was told that, I said to Pastor, yeah, okay, good luck with that, because my 2 boys that are here today will tell you that after, they say, Mom, just get to the point. We checked out 30 minutes ago. So they just want the cliff notes. So I'm going to do my best to do that. But also, Pastor, I did get Joe Cardinelli, who wasn't able to be here today, one of our brothers. I did get his permission to reclaim his time. So I might go a little over. So I've come to this action for several very important reasons to me. The first one is that I'm a grandmother of 8, between the ages of 5 and 24. I'm a mother of 3. I have a granddaughter who's working on making me a great-grandmother, and my father over there a grandpa. That's just crazy. But I'm here because I'm of the belief that we're all related. We're all related. So I'm everybody's mom, I'm everybody's grandma, and I'll be everybody's great-grandma. So I'm just honored to stand in this space. So I do worry very much about my grandchildren's future, as the others have mentioned. Like we said, everybody needs clean air and clean water. And I don't know if people are aware here, but there are 8 counties, not cities, counties in the state of Wisconsin that the American Lung Association gave a grade of F to. That's not okay. That is not okay. My 12-year-old grandson out there, Phoenix, is a remarkable, incredible athlete. You put a ball in his hand, any kind of ball, and he dominates the sport. He's been the quarterback on his little football league for, I think, 3 seasons now. And when he has the ball, you can pretty much count on some spectacular things happening on the basketball court and on the football field. But you know what? He's got asthma. Doesn't run in our family. It's climate related. And when he's out there and about to make an important play, run the ball down the field or whatever, all of a sudden I can see him clutching at his chest. I can see that he's out of breath. And reluctantly, he has to come off, on the side of the field or the court. And that's not okay for any child. And I worry that while we're all wearing these cloth masks right now, I fear if we don't do something now, that in 10 years, my grandkids are going to be wearing hazard masks. And that scares the you-know-what out of me. It truly does. So I am so excited that we have the opportunity with Governor Evers's budget and with the task force on climate change that Lieutenant Barnes has spearheaded. So I have great hope. As far as water goes, we have the privilege, the absolute blessing, to have a great lake right behind here. And we've got pipelines that are going through them. This is a natural wonder. The largest bodies of fresh air on the planet. And we're allowing pipelines to go through. And let me tell you something. I was at Standing Rock, standing with the Native Americans against the Dakota Access Pipeline. And I learned every pipe leaks. It's just a matter of time. Not only that, they have passed laws that they don't even have to tell you until it's an insane amount of oil that you can't miss. Now, the other thing I can tell you, you all know water and oil don't mix. Well, if you were to take 1 gallon of oil and dump it in the ocean, that contaminates 1 million gallons. 1 million gallons. if you take a pint of oil and put it in Lake Michigan or in a waterway or some other small lake, it's going to cover the surface of a mile. So it's time we do something. It's time we do something about this. So thank you. So I'm here for that issue. I'm also here as I am a board member on Peace Action of Wisconsin, who's represented here. Thank you for coming. And I was at the office one day helping out, and Pam said to me, wow, there's an email here from Pastor Jonathan asking if we would come down and share, support them in their last meal. And I said, oh yeah, sure, Pam, we'll go, yep. Well, it just kept gnawing at me, so I went home and I looked at the website, the Facebook page, I'm sorry. And I could hear the calling loud and clear. I kept trying to push it away. So I sent a text to Pastor and asked him to tell me more about this. I mean, is this a juice fast? Is this a what? He said, no, this is a water only fast. This is water only. I'm like, oh wow. And I told him I was interested in doing it. Now, what I meant by I was interested in doing it was I was interested in doing it remotely from my house, so that if on day 2 or 5 I said, oh, that's it for me, I didn't have any accountability to anybody. And this is all in the plan, but Pastor was, listen to my story of, I've been a lifelong activist. I was born absolutely intolerant to any injustice of any kind. And people know that from my signs. I've got hundreds of them. My kids think I'm crazy. Now I just lost my point. See, this is what happens. Well, all right, never mind. It wasn't important, I guess. So, okay, so now, oh yeah, we're on the issue war. So so Pastor Jonathan said, well, are you interested? I'm like, yeah, heck, I'm interested. Sure, I'm interested. He said, well, why don't you sleep on it tonight? I'll give you a call in the morning. Well, I said, all right. And he says, I'm going to check with the other team members. And I thought, well, check with the other team members, just so I can do a remote, fasting at my own house. Wow. And so he called me bright and early the next morning. So how do you feel this morning? What do you think? Are you in? I'm like, yeah, it sounds great. And he said, great, I'll get a hold of the press, put out a press release that we're now the Wisconsin 6. At that time, there were 5. And then I was going to be the Wisconsin 6. And I'm like, oh, whoa. So there was no backing down at that point. But he's such an inspiration and such a force to be dealt with that how could you possibly say no to him? So also, when I looked at the web page about the event, I noticed, Wisconsin 5 at that point were all men. Talented, resourceful, diversified, young men. And I said to myself, oh boy, these guys are going to need some feminine energy in there, and they're also going to need some elder wisdom. And so I knew that that I needed to sign up with the team. So on the issue of war, I'm just going to say a couple of facts about war. It's unsustainable, period. End of story. $1 trillion a year is spent to war. They tell you it's $750 billion, but there's a bunch of little side funds that they draw from. That translates to 67 cents of every tax dollar. Now, I like to imagine what we could do with just a quarter of that, $250 billion. We could start a serious transition to a green economy that's life-sustaining, that offers living wages. No longer do parents have to worry about Army or recruiters coming into their kids' junior high school class or high school class and get them to sign up for the military because there's no other jobs available without them. They can't afford to go to college. With this budget and with getting these green initiatives through, I want to see green job recruiters come into the schools to tell them what opportunities there are in cleaning up this place and making it thrive for many generations to come. Thank you. So the next thing I have then is the Native American issue, the indigenous people. Steve's walking away with my flag there that had it there before. I've worked real closely for the last probably 10 years with the Native American indigenous community out in California, up and down the coast, when they were trying to make a priest. They were going to canonize a father who had done all the killing of the natives. They tell the story, oh, we brought him in, we taught him agriculture. Like, what? You taught the Native Americans agriculture? So they have this big story that they spin that's because it's a big industry. There's 22 missions up and down the coast, and it's a big tourist attraction. So, like I said, the natives have been here in Wisconsin for 12,000 years. So in all actuality, wherever we stand, we're actually on stolen native land. And so I'm here today. I want to honor them. I want to honor them for being the protectors of the water, of the planet, of fighting back against the corporate aggressions against our Mother Earth. I want to thank them because you know what? When I was up at Standing Rock, and they're up at Line 3 right now, they're all over the place fighting pipelines. Let me tell you what, water does not stand still. It runs downstream. So it's coming to all of us. That water that they're dumping in reservation treaty land is actually coming right to our homes and our faucets. And so we need to link arms with them. We need to get engaged in the dialogue of climate change and climate justice. It's easy to let it pass you by. It's difficult. People don't like the word change. They don't. But it's time. We don't have time to walk away from that conversation. We have a moral obligation. This is not a wish list. This is the Wisconsin Governor's Task Force on Climate Change report. You can get this on our website. We have it on there to download. It's on the back. Please understand what we have at stake here. And we have to get away from being what I call clicktivists. Everybody on Facebook, they see something, they just see the picture associated to a headline. They don't even read what's below the picture. Oh, I like that. Oh, that makes me mad. Oh, that's funny. And they go on to the next one, and they do it hundreds of times every day. Imagine if they took just one or two and took it serious enough to learn about the issue and do something about it. Be activists. Imagine what we can do. Imagine what we can do. And so I'm calling on all of you to do that. I want you to be the biggest thorn in the side of every single legislator in this state. Be relentless. They have to listen to us. What I'm hoping that we do in the near future, after we all recover from this 22 days, is to get together, the group of us and all of our followers, to go to Madison for a lobby day. And we have our listed demands. And we walk through the halls until we've reached every single office. And if we can't speak to our legislator, we say, great, well, would you kindly hand this to him? Then there's accountability. We can come back and say, well, we dropped this off at your office. What do you think of that? Are you for that? You are? Great. Sign on to the legislation. Help Governor Evers here out. If you're not, I want you to put in writing, why not? Why not? Because when you govern for people and the planet, peace and prosperity will surely follow. So I'm gonna end with my speech, but I have a very special guest that I want to bring up today. As you know, after the rally, we're going to be going across the Father Grappy Unity Bridge. He was an amazing legacy, a leader, a game changer. When that was going on in the 60s, I was 14, 15 years old. I came from a very racist family. My father would see him and Martin Luther King marching, and he'd say they need to be shot. And as a 12, 13-year-old, I'm like, why? They're dressed better than you are with their hats and their clothes, and they're marching peacefully and singing songs of praise. What's the matter with that? So today I have the honor to burn off some of that generational karma I have And I am so happy and pleased to bring up right now Christine Grappy, who is the daughter of Father Grappy. And unfortunately, he passed in when he was, I think it was 54, Christine, and she was 5. So I am so grateful that you're here. Christine Grappy, everybody.
Thanks, everybody, for coming out. And it's a very symbolic and significant location in Milwaukee civil rights history, climate justice, which is, so he was offered or invited to apply for a position in ministry in a small town somewhere in the Midwest. And he drove out there for the interview, and they started talking. It was a small town, and they were building a new water tower. They started talking about this water tower, and it came up that the water tower was going to be to provide water for the residents of the town who happened to be all white. And all of the African American residents lived outside the town. And my father said, if you give me this position, there's no way in hell that that water is going to be for the white people only. And so right then and there they decided they had better hire the other guy. So but the reason I tell that story is that with climate change upon us, we need to be looking out for our most vulnerable communities. Everybody deserves safe, clean, healthy drinking water. Everyone deserves food security in the time of climate change, and those green jobs need to be going to the people who need the jobs the most. So I want to thank everybody for coming out and just recognizing, kind of recognizing the history of Milwaukee civil rights and kind of bringing that into the future. Thank you so much.
Can we hear it for Jill and Christine? We are going to be wrapping up in just a second, but we've got one other special dignitary here that I would like to introduce. Joyce Ellwinger, again, a lifelong activist here in Milwaukee, somebody who deeply inspires me and humbles me. She's going to share a few words with us. So Joyce, why don't you come on up?
I'll be very brief. I just want to bring it to the here and now. I'm the secretary for the MICA Transportation Task Force, and we have an issue before the city and the county and the state right now, and that is I-94. Right down the hill. We're going to be going that way to go over the bridge. The Wisconsin Department of Transportation wants to take a 3.5-mile segment from here out to 70th Street and spend $1 billion to build more lanes. We are saying we don't need to do that. We can work within what we have, add some safety features for the neighborhood so that the exits and ramps are safer, and we can focus on transit issues instead of constantly building more and more freeways. The number one polluter in terms of carbon emissions is cars. All right, so what we are doing, well, the county board is voting on this Wednesday on a resolution that would say, let's have a full environmental impact study before this project goes forward. They need to hear from us if that's what we want. The governor's climate advisory committee report said, we want a full environmental study before the I-94 expansion goes forward. Governor Evers ignored that and put $83 million into our budget in bonding issues for the study to be advanced. We want to say, let's look at where we are. It's a different world. COVID has changed everything. COVID-19 has changed everything, and it makes sense to stop, take a second look, and so let's call for a full environmental impact study before anything else happens on I-94.
When I say climate, you say justice. Climate. Justice. Climate. Justice. Let me wrap up by reminding us what our 6 demands are as the budget, and not only doubled, but having an intentional carve out for community and PACE financing. So it's not just those who own homes, but everybody who can benefit from energy savings. The second thing we are demanding is that there be an Office of Environmental Justice, that our communities of color, our indigenous communities transition away from dirty fossil fuels to clean renewable energy. The third thing we are demanding is that the $1 million that Supreme was talking about be put forth for job training and green jobs. So people that are getting out of incarceration, people who need jobs, people who don't have family sustaining jobs can get trained in good paying green jobs in the transition. The fourth thing we are advocating for is charging infrastructure. Currently, electric cars cost almost nothing in maintenance per year. So that is a huge savings. There's no oil changes, there's no fuel lines, there's none of that stuff. For every 1 part in an electric car, there's 1,000 parts in an internal combustion engine car. So they have almost no maintenance, they have almost no heat. Not only do they have no maintenance, but they cost about half as much to fuel each year. Now the problem is you have to have a place to plug it in. And so we have the opportunity for public infrastructure for charging. So if you live in an apartment, if you don't have a garage with a plug, you can access the savings of electric cars. And not only does this save money, but this also, of course, cleans up our air quality. The fifth thing we are advocating for is clean water. There are too many lead pipes throughout southeastern Wisconsin and throughout our state. It is hard to imagine that this has to be a fight. Who wants children to have to drink contaminated lead water? But it has to be advocated for. So we will keep advocating it for. We'll make our politicians keep saying no until we get it, and we will remember advocating for our rural and farm communities. And there are a lot of ways that climate justice can impact them. One big way in the budget is land conservation and water management. And these are issues that will help our rural communities. And just like our cities have problems with our drinking water, our rural communities also have all sorts of toxins getting in their groundwater and drinking water. And so we want every kid throughout this state to have clean water. And again, all of these things are in the current budget, but we need to get it passed. And so we want climate justice in this budget. So when I say climate justice budget, can we do that again? Climate justice budget. Climate justice budget. Climate justice budget. All right, let me end on a word of hope. So these can feel like challenging, dark things to talk about. But as a person of faith, I am mindful that the imaginations, prophecies, and dreams of the people who follow the divine have shaped the world for millennia. Whether it be Isaiah, who prophesied a world where the swords were turned into plowshares and the spears into pruning hooks. Whether it be the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. speaking about a world where the color of one's skin did not determine whether one got justice or not. People of faith have had big dreams. They have had dreams that shaped the world. When we dream big, the world changes. It doesn't always change overnight, but we have to have big dreams. And climate justice is a big dream. And so the Wisconsin 7 are willing to not eat for 22 days because we have this dream for a beautiful, hopeful, just, clean world. I'm going to invite Justin Blake up to give us some instructions for what's next.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you to all our peacekeepers and those people that are thinking about the world and our community and our atmosphere for coming out today. My dear sister, thank you for coming. We love and respect the work your pops did. I've talked to some of my colleagues here on the 7. I apologize, we're not going to walk to the bridge today, but we are going to stand in unity on that corner, shake a flag, and make some noise with a sign to let people know change is here. When the automotive car came around, when the first car rolled out of a Ford plant, you know how it changed the Americas? We had to put up gas stations, you know what I'm saying? So that's the electrical. We had to do a multitude of things. Hotels went along the roadway. All this thing developed around the car. So when you're talking about new energy, there's going to be new developments of all kind we can't even imagine right now. And you guys are going to be the lead cause of it. You're our heroes for coming out today. And we would love it if you join us on the corner right here for quite a few minutes of celebration of having a green planet. And so if we could all meet on the corner, we can walk over there together and talk. And we're going to stir up the crowd that comes by and see if we can get some horns honking for green, for climate justice. Come on over. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming again. Peace and love.
All right, thank you all again. We'll meet in the corner. And one last acknowledgement. I want to thank Dr. Kevin Folan. He has been steadfast with the Wisconsin 7 throughout this journey. He has been supporting us in terms of our health, our spiritual well-being, and we appreciate just the way you're the Wisconsin 8.
All right. All right.
Okay, you guys, they were going to take a walk to a bridge. I can't remember which bridge it was, but they're going to do a march. But for whatever reason, they're not going to do the march to the bridge for the fight for climate justice. Instead, they're going to do like a little rally at the looks like the corner of the street here, and just make some noise and bring awareness to climate justice. So yeah, they're just gonna do that, and I want to thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you guys for tuning in to our topic today and learning a little bit about what Wisconsin 7 is and what they stand for when it comes to climate justice. And remember, you guys, if you can't come real, at least come raw. Raw topic.